In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a ship was found drifting. No damage, no blood, no bodies, just silence. This is not a ghost story. This is not a legend. This is a documented historical event that has never been explained. Welcome to MysTales Dark, where silence asks the hardest questions. On a crisp November morning in 1872, the bustling port of New York City slowly faded into the mist. A two-masted brigantine, the Mary Celeste, slipped its moorings and pointed its bow toward the vast, open Atlantic. Its destination was Genoa, Italy, a routine transatlantic crossing that should have been utterly unremarkable. On board, a sense of quiet optimism filled the air. The ship was sturdy, recently refitted, and ready for the sea. At the helm was Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, a man known for his skill, his fairness, and his unwavering piety. He was a seasoned mariner, born of the sea, and this voyage was special. He was accompanied by his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. For them, this was not just a commercial trip. It was an adventure, a chance to spend a warm winter under the Italian sun. The crew of 7 he had personally selected were all experienced sailors, mostly sober-minded Germans and Danes, men he trusted to run a tight, orderly ship. Below deck, the cargo hold was filled with 1,701 barrels of raw American alcohol, destined for fortifying Italian wines, a volatile but valuable payload. The journey was planned meticulously, a familiar path across the ocean that countless ships had sailed before. The first week at sea passed without incident. The ship's log, kept diligently by Captain Briggs, recorded fair weather and steady progress. The crew settled into the familiar rhythms of life at sea. The changing of the watch, the trimming of the sails, the endless creak and groan of the ship's timbers. One can imagine the simple, peaceful moments. Little Sophia, perhaps laughing at the sight of dolphins playing in the bow wave. Sarah Briggs playing the small cabinet organ she had brought aboard to fill the captain's cabin with music. The crew sharing stories under a canopy of stars, the vast dark ocean their only companion. Everything was as it should be. Routine, orderly, safe. But the sea is a place of profound and sudden change. The final entry in the ship's log was made on the morning of November 25th. It noted the ship's position just off the Azores Islands. The weather was recorded as unsettled, but not alarming. Nothing to trouble a captain of Briggs's experience. It was the last message the world would ever receive from the Mary Celeste. After that date, the log falls silent. The pen was put down, and an invisible line was crossed. The ship, with its 10 souls and its valuable cargo, sailed on. But it had passed into a realm of deep and unsettling mystery. The routine journey, filled with such ordinary hopes, was about to become one of history's most enduring maritime enigmas. The ship would be seen again, but the people aboard, they would not. They vanished as if plucked from the deck by an unseen hand, leaving behind a vessel that was eerily, unnervingly intact. The sea kept its own counsel. December 4th, 1872. The Atlantic lay still and grey. Aboard the Canadian brigantine Dei Gratia, Captain David Morehouse peered into a muffling fog. After weeks of hard weather, the wind fell away. Sea and sky reduced to silence. The lookout called a shape in the haze. There, then gone. Morehouse raised his spyglass. A vessel drifted about 6 kilometers off between the Azores and Portugal. Something was wrong. She carried sail but yawed aimlessly, canvas torn and slack. A ship with no hand at the helm, moving only where wind and current wished. Morehouse closed the distance slow and careful. 2 long hours cable by cable until the name on the bow came clear. Mary Celeste. A chill. He knew her and her captain, Benjamin Briggs. They had dined in New York before sailing. They hailed her. No reply. No distress flag. Deck showed no movement. Only her lifeboat davit stood empty, rigging whispering in the mist, sails in disarray, a working ship abandoned. First mate Oliver DeVoe led a boarding party. Their skiff slid across glassy water. The Mary Celeste loomed without a sound. The silence felt heavy, as if the ship were holding its breath. On deck they found a sound hull. Below, roughly a meter of water in the hold, wet but far from sinking. No voices, only timbers groaning and the sea's slow breath. The ship seemed to be waiting. Food remained on the table, personal items untouched. Cargo completely intact. Whatever happened suddenly. The ship remembered, even if no one else could. Absence louder than any storm. In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Atlantic, some stories are not written in ink, but whispered by the wind and the waves. They are tales of the sea's deep secrets, of ships that sail without souls, and of questions that linger for centuries, unanswered. This is one such story. It begins not with a storm, but with a silence. A silence that crept aboard a vessel named the Mary Celeste and never left. When she was discovered adrift on December 4th, 1872, she was a phantom, a vessel under partial sail, yet with no hand on the helm. The crew of the De Gratia, the ship that found her, hailed her. Once, twice. Their calls were swallowed by the fog, met only with the creak of timber and the sigh of the ocean. There was no reply. There was no reply. There was no one. A boarding party was sent, their hearts heavy with a nameless apprehension. What they found was not a scene of chaos, but one of profound and unsettling order. The ship was perfectly seaworthy, a sturdy brigantine that had been expertly cared for. There was no sign of a pirate attack. The cargo of industrial alcohol was untouched, and the crew's personal valuables, their money and keepsakes, were left exactly where they should be. In the captain's cabin, the logbook's last entry spoke of routine and calm seas. In the crew's quarters, pipes lay next to tobacco pouches, clothes were folded, and a child's toys lay waiting for a small hand to return. There was ample food and water for months. Everything was in its place, except the people. 10 souls, the captain, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and a crew of 7 had vanished. This is the heart of the enigma. Sailors do not abandon safe ships. It is a fundamental law of the sea, an instinct for survival etched into their very being. A ship is a fortress, a sanctuary against the infinite, cold indifference of the ocean. You do not leave it, especially not in calm waters under a placid sky. So what fear, what sudden, unspeakable terror was strong enough to make them break that sacred rule? What dread could possess 10 people to flee a perfectly sound vessel and commit themselves to a small, vulnerable lifeboat in the middle of the vast Atlantic? There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no violence. Only clues that deepened the mystery. A disassembled pump, a missing chronometer, and a single frayed rope trailing from the ship's stern, its end lost in the dark water. Did they tether their lifeboat to the ship, intending to return, only for the line to snap? Was it a squall that appeared and vanished without a trace? Or was it something else? Something that defied logical explanation? They chose water over wood, the terrifying uncertainty of the horizon over the solid deck beneath their feet. Fear leaves few traces.
Choices made in a moment of panic, even fewer. We are left with only the silence they left behind it. A silence that asks a question we cannot answer. What did they see or hear in those final moments? What silence did they hear that we cannot?
Pirates were blamed, but nothing was stolen. No violence. The ship itself rejected this explanation. Sometimes logic arrives and finds no place to dock. The lines never touched. Some believe invisible fumes triggered panic. A fear of explosion. They may have fled temporarily and never made it back. Fear can ignite decisions without leaving a mark. The ocean keeps secrets. Not all of them are violent. Some are simply unanswered. Explanations comfort us. The sea owes us none. And yet we ask again and again. The Mary Celeste was seaworthy. The crew was capable. And yet they vanished. What would you choose to believe when the sea says nothing? Share your theory below and join us in the dark.
MysTales, where mystery gets alive.